بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Continuing with Surah Taha and the Tafsir of these verses, personally one of my favorite surahs. We left off on the reaction and response of Prophet Musa alayhi salam to Allah's taklif upon him, the responsibility that God put on his shoulders. What was that responsibility? It was in verse 24, اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Go to Fir'aun, for verily he has transgressed, he's crossed the lines. There are very bold red lines that he has crossed. I mean, I don't know if we can find anyone worse than Fir'aun in the history of mankind, maybe, in the sense of not how many people he necessarily took the lives of, but in the sense of what he would say about himself. Ana rabbukumul a'la. I am your highest Lord. Like, this is it. This is what it's all about. You won't find higher than me when it comes to a Lord. SubhanAllah. That's what he's saying about himself. Or how he speaks about how the rivers and streams, they flow from under me. Now, this guy knows himself. He's nothing. He, just like everyone else, has to eat, sleep, drink, go to the bathroom, and all of that. But this is how low he's sunk. And so Prophet Musa has to go now and speak to him and try to bring him back on track. اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. Now, in our last session, I pointed out how Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he didn't get too worried, it seems. Worried in the sense of, oh my God, like try to get a discount from God or something. And so that God like says, okay, like if you're not too comfortable, oh Musa, you don't have to go, right? Nothing like that really happened. Prophet Musa, as was pointed out, straight up embraced this responsibility, but yes, he asked for something as well. He did dua as well. Okay? So this itself is a lesson for us that if there is a responsibility on us, it is always good to reach out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, the one who's put that responsibility on us, and to ask Allah, oh Allah, make it easier for me, right? So what did Musa say in response? Did he say, give me a discount? Give me some time off? Like, let me think about it, let me come up with a plan or something? He said, Qala, verse 25 onwards is the du'as of Musa. And mashallah, he doesn't have, he goes all out really. He asks for as much as he can. And this is also a lesson for us, that we can go all out when we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. Oh Allah, expand my chest. Now this is a saying, this is an expression that we have in Arabic. We have it in Farsi as well. I'm not sure if we have an equivalent in the English language. To widen your chest. Yes, the wider your chest, the more you can take in, the more you can embrace, right? So we have this si'atul sadr, right? We have it. In Farsi they say se'aya sadr, right? Which means an expanded chest. Yep. Which signifies the fact that a person can get along with people, won't give up very easily. Yeah, we'll be patient, we'll face the difficulties and put up with them rather than just run away from them or lose their cool over them. Yeah, that is what Sa'atul Sadr is. Our Prophet ﷺ, he had that, or else he wouldn't be able to deal with the people of his time. The Imams, our scholars even, our scholars, you look at them, they have to deal with a lot of people sometimes who are disrespectful to them. Yet you see that they have that, they enjoy that Sa'atul Sadr, which is a result of them practicing, of course. Practicing when they're at home, before they become some, great individual that everyone looks up to. In those years that lead up to them becoming great, what are they doing? When they're at home with their family, with their mother, father, brother, sister, or wife and husband or children, they are able to control their anger. Yeah, and not lose their cool and so fast and have and be bad tempered at home. This takes practice, but when you practice it, that chest of yours, quote unquote, expands. Yeah, you are ready for more. You can take in more. These ulama, like they, if you look at their lives in their, their very, humble family lives, they are practicing this. And then as they come out into the world, so to speak, and they are now others refer to them for their religious needs and questions and inquiries and all of that. These scholars are able to put up with these people, get along with them. So here, Musa says, Rabbi shrah li sadri, expand my chest. Why? Because this task, this responsibility that you've put on me requires me to have a very high threshold and to be able to put up with hardship. If my threshold is not that high, then I'm going to fail. Yes? So you ask Allah for that capacity. Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, he has this dua. He says, Oh Allah, in Farsi he says, give me ham zarf, ham mazroof. Meaning what? Meaning the container and that which goes in the container. And he's talking spiritually, of course, here. Yeah. Allah will give us those good things that come through the tests. Yeah. We have to have the container to hold it. Yes. And then that which Allah is going to put in it as well is also great. We need Allah to do that as well. We need Allah to give us the container and that which He's going to put in the container of spiritual blessings. It's good to ask for both. Now here, there's going to be a lot of tests coming Prophet Musa's way. And as a result, of course, great blessings will come his way. He's asking for the tawfiq to be able to live up to the expectations that are on his shoulders, yeah, that Allah has of him. And this is a very, very, very important characteristic. Anybody out there who is involved in any capacity, whether it's the center, whether it's a masjid, whether it's, a city, whether it's a state, whether it's a country they're running, whatever it is, they have to have this sa'atul sadr and be able to get along with people and not lose their cool so fast. It does not matter if you're right and they're wrong. If you're the one in charge, when you get angry, yes, then you are the one who is condemned. It's not easy, and we forget sometimes. People who are the leaders of communities, they have to be aware of this. You lose your cool, you lost. I'm sorry. Yeah. So no matter what, and if a person bottles it up in that moment, it will be very rewarding later for them. They will see. And that's why we have a hadith by Imam Ali alayhi salam. It says, Alatul riyasa si'atul sadr. That, the means of being a leader, riyasa. A riyasa means to be a ra'is, to be a leader. Yes, the tool for that, the means for that, the way that can be accomplished is only through sa'atul sadr. Now, we do have to say something here. I do have to explain that, look, just because it is a condition for a person to be able to do what they need to do when it comes to leading others, leading a community, leading a center, leading a masjid, leading a country. Sa'atul sadr is good, for things that are worth it. I want us to understand this as well. Sometimes people will be expecting you to get along with them or with their expectations, but their expectations either are not permissible ones, or even if they are permissible and halal, they are not the priority, and you will have to compromise on the priorities in order to put up with what they expect of you. In these cases, Sa'atul Sadr doesn't make sense anymore. You have to do what you have to do. Even if the people later come and talk behind your back and say, oh, look at that person, he wasn't able to put up with things. No. He understood that now's the time to change things up. Now's the time to leave. Now's the time to stay and do certain things. Yeah. Just because they didn't put up with anything that was coming their way doesn't mean they don't have sa'atul sadr. Sometimes that thing is not worth it. Yeah, it's not a priority, and they have to compromise. But God knows how much this happens, brothers and sisters. God knows how much this happens where the lay people, and when I say lay people, I'm not saying lay people versus clergy, lay people versus scholars. I'm not saying that. Lay people versus those who are in a leadership position, even if it's not, it has nothing to do with scholarship, Islamic scholarship, and so on. Sometimes people will not understand why a person left a certain cause and certain initiative, and they'll say, oh, they couldn't take it. No, they can take it. It's just that it's not a priority. Oh my God, we have so many of these, so many examples for this. One of them is being Imam Ali alayhi salam himself. Till today, when you watch some of the sheikhs from other schools of thought, they say that Ali ibn Abi Talib, he wasn't even interested in khilafah. Yeah, that's why he left. He turned away from it. Okay, if Saqifa took place, if Saqifa took place, then you know what? I'm not going to put up with this. I'm out of here or something. That's what they make it sound like. They make it sound like he's saying it's as if since Saqifa took place and others were chosen, okay, I'm not interested anymore. I don't want to deal with people anyway. And so the Imam is a zahid. He doesn't care about these dunyawi matters too much. No, that was not the reason why, at least according to the Shia school of thought, that was not why Ali ibn Abi Talib turned away from the Khilafah and didn't try to gain it for himself. It's not because he didn't want to put up with, the baggage that it comes with, and it's a dunyawi thing, and he's not interested in dunyawi matters, Sometimes that's something that is used against the Shia school of thought's opinion on Imam Ali and his approach to the Khilafah. They'll say, look, you are bringing Ali ibn Abi Talib so low. He doesn't care about these dunyawi matters to begin with. Yeah? He's into Allah. And so if there are others to take up this task, he's not interested. And he's going to turn away from it and he'll leave it to others. We'll say, no. He didn't turn away because he doesn't want to put up with the baggage that this khilafah comes with. He turned away because there are other priorities. There are other priorities that he sees. He looks at the bigger picture. Yes. So sometimes this happens. People are not aware of the reason why somebody is not going to put up with certain things, and they'll think it's a weakness on that person's part, but that's not the case. And sometimes this is even misused. Yes, it'll be misused to give some the guilt trip and to keep them in positions that they don't need to necessarily be in. Yeah. Oh, Ayatollah so and so. If you are not marja' taqlid, if you are not willing to put up with the people, then the people, who are they going to turn to? Well, the answer is there's 10 other marjas. Yeah, some of the maraja of the past, they did not embrace marja'iyya. They said, why should we? Yes, there's a lot of baggage that it comes with, but it's not something that I need to, it's not a priority because there are 10 other marjas anyway. If people need a maraja taqlid, they'll choose one of those and go by one of those maraja. So let me take care of what I need to take care of. Yeah, and they have their own priorities. Yeah, no one can turn to these people, point the finger at them and say, oh, you're not willing to put up with the hardships of marja'iyya. Because yes, marja'iyya, who are we kidding? Marja'iyya comes with baggage. It is not easy. All right, so قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي. But lots of times, yes, the situation will call for a person to step up and to put up with the people and the problems and all of that. In this case, you need sharh al-sadr, you need sa'at al-sadr, which means you will need that wide existence in your chest that makes you willing to embrace, all these stones and arrows that will come your way. وَيَسَّرْ لِي أَمْرِي. The next dua that Prophet Musa has in verse number 26, It says, Yassir li amri. Yassir comes from yusr. Yusr means ease. Yassir means to make easy. Oh Allah, make easy for me my affair, that which I have to do, my responsibility. First of all, Rabbish rahli sadri, right? Make me stronger. Make me higher and greater than that to not be able to embrace the hardships that come on one hand. On the other hand, yassir li amri, the responsibility, make it as easy as possible for me. That's awesome. Why not? What more could you do dua for? Think about it. Yes, someone gives you a responsibility, okay? And you say, "Oh Allah, make me strong enough for this responsibility and make the responsibility as easy as possible upon me." Yeah, someone might say, "Well, that's a cheat. That's a cheat code. What are you doing? What are you talking about?" You know, what's good is to embrace it in its hardship. Get out, come on. Where do we have in our scriptures and our texts telling us to ask for hardship and to not ask for Allah to make things easy? Where? But you look at some people and you find that that is how they see things. Let's talk about this a little bit. We do have a hadith, it's a famous one as well. I'm going to talk about this a little bit because you notice this, misunderstanding and this black and whiteness sometimes with individuals, and you don't know how to point it out to them because in the moment they are worked up, hyped up, and all of that. But now that all of us are sitting in our homes, or wherever we are, and we're listening, let's talk about this a little bit. On one hand, Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he asks Allah, he says, "Oh Allah, yassir li amri, make my responsibility easy on me." But we also have a hadith, a famous hadith that says, "Afdalul a'mal ahmazuha," that the best of deeds, the best of a'mal is the hardest of them. So what's going on here? Is there a contradiction here or not? That's the question. It's pretty cool how you will always have a hadith. You can always have a hadith to support you in your truth or in your, I'm not going to say falsehood, but in your mistakenness. Yeah. We have this so much today. You notice this a lot. You see it a lot on social media. You see it a lot in people in person as well. That they will take one hadith and they have an understanding of it without the proper contextualization of that hadith. And what happens is they will be going in one direction, others will be going in the exact opposite direction. And each side looks at the other as, totally off track. What's going on here? Afdalul a'mal ahmazuha. Is it saying that we should always choose the harder job? Prophet Musa, Allah has given you a responsibility. You can either ask Allah to make it easy on you, or you can just embrace it in its hardship. Some of our people today, if you ask them, they'll say, "Give it to me the hard way. Give it to me as hard as it can be. I don't care about making it easier." Because afdalul a'mal ahmazuha. Well then, what's Prophet Musa asking for? Yes, if I have three options, do I have to choose the hardest one always? Yeah. Or are we supposed to choose the wisest option always? Which one is it? This is a good discussion to have. Some will act as if no matter what, that the proof that a certain path, a certain option is the one God wants you to take and choose. Yeah, the only proof for that is what? Is the fact that it's the hardest, it's the most controversial, and it is the one that can get you in the most trouble. That's how people are. And this has been the case from Imam Ali's time and even during the Prophet's time till today. Yes, these are misunderstandings of some. Hey, why'd you choose option A over B and C? Well, I noticed it's the hardest one. Well, is it the wisest one though? What are the repercussions? It doesn't matter. Allah will help. Allah will take care of everything. That part I don't have to worry about. Let me do wazifa, Allah will take care of natija. It's interesting, Ayatollah Khamenei has an explanation on this line that, take care of your wazifa and the natija is in Allah's hands, meaning the result. Take care of your duty, the result is in Allah's hands. This is a true statement, of course, but he makes a point here. He says, don't let this line sometimes push you in this direction where you don't even care about what the implications of what you're doing and how you're doing it and what your approach is. Yeah? Don't let this make you blind to the implications of what you're doing and how you're doing it, in other words. Just because Allah will take care of the results if I do my duty doesn't mean that now I don't have to worry about anything anymore. Let me just go head on. No. Figure out the wisest solution to something and then leave the rest in Allah's hands. But some people don't do it like that. Some people, they look at which one is the most controversial. Some might look at it, which one's the hardest. Yes, which one is the riskiest. Yeah, and for them, it seems that is the case. Now, if you ask them that, they might say no. But in practice, yes, in practice, that's what's happening. Now, for some that's how it is. Now, the hard part, though, I'm going to say is when it comes to our responsibilities that we have to uphold and live up to, that Allah has put on our shoulders, maybe one of the hardest parts is to actually figure out what the responsibility is. Lots of times, this is where we can be mistaken. Choosing the wisest option is hard. It's not easy. That's the part where we have to understand this is part of the package. This is part of the responsibility. This is what Ayatollah Khamenei is saying, that the duty and responsibility, part of it is to figure out what the natija and result is going to look like. Some people don't do that part. They just have an understanding, boom, they go ahead, head on. No. So I would say one of the hardest parts is actually figuring out what you're supposed to do. Why? Because if you're mistaken, brothers and sisters, if you're mistaken in your judgment and you came to a certain conclusion, yes, you will be off the hook in the akhirah. But whether we like it or not, the ramifications and repercussions of what we have chosen to do are going to be inevitable and inescapable. Right? I'll give you a small example that's irrelevant to what I'm talking about right now, but then I'll give an example as well that's more relevant, okay? Just so you get what I'm trying to get at here. For example, a person who does not know that this drink in front of them is intoxicating, and they just so happen to drink it. They thought it's water, but Islamic Sharia tells them that if you're not sure that something najis fell in there, then you can have it. And they had it based on that principle that we do have in fiqh and Sharia. All right, this person accidentally, unknowingly consumed an intoxicant. Will they be held responsible on the Day of Judgment? I don't think there's any scholar out there that would ever say that they will be held responsible on the Day of Judgment. No. Yeah. رُفِعَ عَنْ أُمَّتِي مَا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. That which you don't know has been lifted. The pen has been lifted from you. The Holy Prophet in that famous hadith, he says that there are a few things that Allah is not going to record. One of them is when you don't know. Yes, and you didn't know that you didn't know. Sometimes you know you don't know. Okay, you might have to practice precaution, but you don't know that you don't know. And all right, and you not only is it that you don't know, but there's a principle in the fiqh of Islam that tells you can consume. So you went by all of these rules. You didn't know that this is an intoxicant, and you drank it, and now you're intoxicated. True, you're not going to be held responsible on the Day of Judgment, inshallah, for this. It wasn't your fault. But the question is, what are the ramifications of this act? You drank it. At the end of the day, the takwini effects are going to be there. The takwini effect, like what? Like getting drunk. Yes, getting intoxicated. Let's say it was a glass this big full, right? And you drink, you get intoxicated, you get drunk. Okay, so this is an effect that will have some negative to it. And it's inevitable. You can't, that's just how this world works. It's a world of cause and effect, right? All right. So now here, in this case, this is what I'm trying to get at. There will be times where, and this is why I say it's the hard part, it's the significant part, it's the important part of our responsibility to figure out what approach we're going to have, how we're going to deal with a certain given situation. It's part of the responsibility to do that. Because if we don't do that or we don't do it right and we're mistaken in our approach, what happens is we tried, we made a mistake. On the day of judgment, inshallah, we won't be held responsible. But in this life, what I did in a mistaken way is going to have its negative effects, however far reaching they are. So I'll give you an example now, a more real life example. Now, when I give you this example, I'm not saying that the Khawarij that I'm going to give an example of are going to be excused on the day of judgment. That's a different story. I don't want to get into that part of it. I just want to share with you what Ali ibn Abi Talib says, okay, in Nahj al-Balagha about the Khawarij. It's a very, very important line. A very important line that we need to keep in mind even today with all the stuff going around us in the world. Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says, look, with the Khawarij, don't worry about them too much after me. Imam Ali says, yeah, take care of Muawiyah. Go after Muawiyah. That's the real enemy. Why? The Khawarij, he says in Nahj al-Balagha, they aimed for the truth. In other words, they had the right intention, they had the right goal in mind, but to get to that goal, they went the wrong way. This is Ali speaking in Nahj al-Balagha, alayhi salam. He says they tried to hit the target of the truth, they missed. They got it wrong. Now, someone here might say, well, if that's the case, then does that mean they're excused on the day of judgment? We don't know what's going on. I don't know. We're just sticking to the words of Ali ibn Abi Talib right now. I don't know about their akhirah. I'm not God, so don't ask me. But what does Ali alayhi salam say here? He says, look, they tried to hit the truth, they missed. But they were after the truth at the end of the day. Versus Muawiyah, whose target and his aim is for batil, not truth, falsehood he's after. And he hits the target actually. Go after him after me. All right. So Ali, he gives us this statement. Now, what do I want to get out of it right now? All right. So he's saying what's for sure we can conclude from this line of Ali alayhi salam is the Khawarij are better than Muawiyah and the likes of Muawiyah. This one's after the truth. This one's after falsehood. One misses, one hits the target. Unfortunately, the one after falsehood hits the target. But if Khawarij aren't as bad as Muawiyah, brothers and sisters, their misunderstanding, their wrong approach, their black and white way of dealing with things eventually led to the shahada of Ali ibn Abi Talib. At the end of the day, the one who struck Ali alayhi salam was Ibn Muljim, who was one of the Khawarij. Yeah? Who was one of those who escaped in the Battle of Nahrawan, if I'm not mistaken. When all the others were killed, only a few escaped, one of them being him. These Khawarij were after the truth. They missed the truth. And Ali is saying they're better compared to Muawiyah. But at the end of the day, look at the ramifications. Eventually, their mistake in trying to hit the truth, yes, led to Ali alayhi salam's shahada. This is the point I'm trying to make here. When Prophet Musa says, Rabbi yassir wa yassir li amri, make this job easy for me. Some might turn around and say, no, we're always after the hard one. Whatever's harder is better. We have hadith for it. Well, part of the responsibility is to figure out which one is the wisest option, not the hardest option. I'll give you another example. And really, we need to put this discussion to rest afterwards because I don't think that there will be any argument left after this. Which one is harder? Physically harder. I don't want to speak mentally, psychologically, spiritually harder. Physically harder. Which one is it? To sit at home for 25 years, and I use that term loosely, sit at home. Ali alayhi salam didn't sit at home. In the 25 years he was not Khalifa after the Holy Prophet, but you get what I'm trying to say here. Which one is harder? For you to not be that involved in, for example, the conquests that happened after the Holy Prophet, to have positions and play major roles in the government of Islam after the Holy Prophet, to not have any of that. Is this harder, or to be Khalifa and to have so many responsibilities? Or no, forget about being Khalifa, fighting others who want to be Khalifa. Which one's easier and which one's harder? Of course, sitting at home, quote unquote, I use that figuratively again, is easier than fighting off the first Khalifa and trying to take Khilafah from him, and maybe even losing your life in the process. Yeah? So a person like Ali, who is not a person to compromise and will take the harder route if he has to, what does he do after the Holy Prophet? Yes? He says, I chose the wisest option. Not the hardest, the wisest. فَرَأَيْتُ أَنَّ الصَّبْرَ عَلَى هَاتَا أَحْجَى. I saw that patience, yes, is the wiser option. It is more in accordance with aql. Yes, it is one that is backed by reason and wisdom. That's why I chose this one. But Ali alayhi salam, this is easy. Drawing the sword and fighting them and eventually maybe losing your life is harder. You should choose. You're always about, the hardship, and during the Prophet's time, you were always doing the harder stuff. Yeah, because back then the harder options were the wisest options. But now, the easier option, quote unquote, of course, yes, the easier one is the wiser option. So I'm going to take that one. Ahja, yes, which means more wise. Yes, and I think this is what the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam has to be like. But it's not going to be easy. He says, "Fara'aytu." It's as if Imam Ali alayhi salam has reflected on this a bit. Yes, in addition to what maybe the Prophet had told him, sallallahu alaihi wa before he passed away and all of that, he says, look, fara'aytu. That means I had an opinion. Ra'aytu comes from ra'i, to have an opinion. This is what I came to, that this is ahja, this is wiser. And then we have some of our youth today, instead of, and not when I say our youth, all across the world even, they will choose certain routes for sometimes proving tashayyu being the truth. Even if it's not the wisest approach, even if it's provocative, even if it hurts people's feelings and so on. No. Wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. But wisdom doesn't just happen. It takes reflection, it takes consultation. Yes, a person has to have practiced this to get better and better at it. Instead of letting their emotions lead the way, and usually the emotions will take the route that might not be the wisest route. Okay? Having said all of that, someone might ask, okay, so we will do dua and we will try to, figure out what we need to do. Sometimes, and we will ask Allah to make things even easy for us. Then what is this hadith talking about? Afdalul a'mal ahmazuha. That the best of deeds is the hardest of them. Well, brothers and sisters, what it does not mean has become clear. It does not mean that all the time one should take the hardest route. No. They should take the wisest route, but sometimes, as I said with Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, the wisest route is the hardest route. Or sometimes you have to choose. There are different responsibilities that all of them are reasonable ones. Yes? So for example, there is there is a drought Okay, or let me give a better example. In our Hawza Ilmiya, where we were growing up, back then in Qom, until today even, the water of Qom has issues, right? When you drink it, it has a taste and flavor to it, kind of like salty. Now, over the years and over the decades, it's gotten better. Back when we went, it was not very good. It was not, for me, it wasn't bearable. And even before me, they say it was much worse. Our time wasn't having it too bad versus the past. Okay? But even in our time, when back then, like maybe 20 years ago, the water, it was not good. So we had to drink filtered water, which you had to go and get from some far off place. Okay, you had to have like these big containers that you would fill up, and there was like these special cards you would have to insert, and then it would decrease the credit of it and give you water instead. So now we're in the hauza, yeah, and hot spring summer days would come. The water has to be cooled down, yeah. I still remember some of my friends. They were senior, of course. I was in my first year of Hausa. They were in like their fifth or sixth year of Hausa. You would see them from far away, and you had to go to the basement of the school for this, because that's where the big fridge was. You know, those walk-in big fridges that they have. They would go in the hot sun. They would go down into that basement, bring big blocks of ice from the basement, carry that. We don't have elevators there. I mean, back in our day, there were no elevators in the Hausa, and there was 3 floors, and each floor had a huge water container for people to drink water from. This brother, you would see him, which of course now he's a big sheikh, and as a matter of fact, a lot of the Western students know him. May Allah bless him. He's still there doing his thing, you know. He himself, of course, is Iranian, but anyway, point being is this: he would, out of all the things that you can do to help Hausa students, for some, it was, for example, wake them up for Fajr. I don't know. For some, it was, washing dishes, maybe. For some, it was to go in the hot sun, carry those heavy ice blocks in those pails that they had, all the way to the 3rd floor, go up 6 flocks of stairs to put that ice in that container so that that water can at least cool off a little bit and be drinkable, even more drinkable, because we cannot drink the water from the sink. It's salty. We have to drink that filtered water with the ice in it. Yeah. So this person sees, he looks, he's like, okay, all of the different responsibilities out there, each of them makes sense. Each of them is a wise decision. We need food to be served to the Hausa students. And everything's voluntary, right? The Hausa students would take care of themselves usually, most of the time. Delivering the food to the for the students, or washing dishes. We would take turns washing dishes sometimes. I don't know, cleaning and things like that, or this harder job of the water, or put the containers behind you on your motorcycle under the hot sun. Go and get water from wherever those water stations were in Qom, yeah, and then bring it upstairs three floors. It was impossible. I've done it. I did it maybe several times. It's not any person's job. It's not easy. All right, so you have a list to choose from. Usually people will go for the easier one, but there are some who will choose the harder one. أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. The best out of these actions, yes, is the harder one. You go harder on yourself, it's more rewarding for you. Allah will reward you more for it. So if I were to understand this hadith, this is how I would understand it. Either the only option that you have, which is the wisest option, that you have identified as the wisest option, is also the hardest one. أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. Don't worry. The harder the task, the more rewarding. Abu Abdullah al-Hussein taught us the only option he had was to leave Medina, then leave Mecca, then go for Kufa. And he had no option but to be diverted from Kufa towards Karbala. He said, I'll do it. أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. If this is the only option that I have because it's the wisest, then I'll do it. أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. That's one example of where this hadith applies. And another example of it is when they're all of the options have to be taken care of, right? Or else things won't function. And you choose the hardest one because you know others aren't going to be willing. You're like, you know what? I'll take care of that. أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. But this will not apply to every scenario where there are different options and one is wiser and yet the other is harder. And you say, I'll take the harder one because أفضل الأعمال أحمزها. No, 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 no. That's not how things work. The Imams have taught us that this is not the case. فَرَأَيْتُ أَنَّ الصَّبْرَ عَلَى هَاتَا أَحْجَى. I found that wisdom is in this more. That's why I will take this path more. I will say this though, brothers and sisters. When Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says, I'll take this path because it's wiser. Let us not forget that in the continuation of this sermon, or even maybe before it a little bit, he says that this sabr that I had, it was like a thorn in my eye and something stuck in my throat, suffocating me. So remember, I said it was the easier option physically, because he won't have to fight. But of course, spiritually and mentally, it was really hard for him as well. Yes, but the point I'm trying to make is that it's not it's this it is incorrect and inaccurate to think always the controversial, always the riskier, always the harder option is going to be the one that is our responsibility. No, wisdom is one thing, hardship is another. We go after wisdom first. Sometimes wisdom and hardship will be together in something, and sometimes they're separate. And that is where a Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib is going to be very, very careful to make the right choices and decisions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that tawfiq to be able to understand what the responsibilities are, to be able to identify what the wiser options are, and then to have the right approach in carrying out those responsibilities that Allah has put on our shoulders. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I don't see any questions in the comments section. A salam, my salams to all the brothers and sisters who said salam. And inshallah, next week we'll continue with the du'as of Prophet Musa after Allah has put the responsibility on his shoulders. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.